Welcome to the Complete HTML and CSS series. In this series, we are going to learn how to build websites from an absolute beginner to a professional level. You don't need any technical skills or professional experience. This series is designed for an absolute beginner. By the end of this series, we are going to build the landing page of Upwork.com. But first, we are going to design your own professional portfolio website. So basically, you are going to be able to design something as classic as this, where you could add your services and you are going to add the list of all the websites we are going to build in this series, because by the end of this series, you will have enough work to actually add to this session. And most importantly, you will be able to build more amazing websites. So a potential employer can actually come to this place and send you a message. So here he can also enter his email address, and he could send you any message like, "I would like to work with you." And once he sent this, you are going to receive this in your email address. So you see, the form was submitted successfully. Now let's go to our email address. You see, new form from portfolio contacts. And when you open this, you are going to see the name of the sender, the surname, and of course, you are going to see the message and also the email address. You are going to be able to do this on your own. On the mobile, your professional website is going to look like this. And clicking on any of this should actually take you to the section of this website. This series involves many coding challenges. We are going to simply build different components that makes up the website you see today. Like the accordion, when you go to many websites today, you actually see something like this. So you're going to be able to build this by yourself, like the carousel. And we have many of these components, the button components. We are going to build all this, and then we apply all this knowledge to build a real world website, which is the Upwork.com. Upwork is the world's work marketplace. This course is all you need to start building amazing projects using HTML and CSS. Below, you can find the link to the first website we are going to build. So kindly check it out. Before we can start writing a single line of code, we need to install a code editor, which we are going to be using to write our code. An example is the VS Code. We also have what we call the Sublime Text and many other code editors. The second thing we need is a web browser. A web browser simply helps us to view our website. And an example of a web browser is the Google Chrome. We also have Mozilla Firefox and many other. For this course, I'm going to be using VS Code because VS Code is the most popular code editor out there. And I'm also going to be using Google Chrome. To download Visual Studio Code, simply go to google.com, and here just simply type VS Code and just open the first result. Now click on this particular icon, then you are going to see this particular icon if you are using Mac OS, Windows or Linux. So depending on the computer you are using, simply click this if you are using Mac or this. So I am on Mac, I'm going to click on this particular one, and this is going to download Visual Studio Code. This might take some time, so we just have to be patient. And now, once you finish downloading Visual Studio Code, so all you need to do is to simply go to your files, and here you can find the downloads, and you are going to see this zip file. If you're on Windows, you can right click on this and you are going to see extract all. If you're on Mac, you simply double click on this. Once you finish this process, you are going to have something like this. So for now, let's go and install the second thing, which is the web browser. So the same way, just come to Google and here type Chrome. And you are going to see an option to actually download Chrome if you don't already have Chrome downloaded on your PC. So here you can simply click this button and download Chrome. Now we have everything we need to start this journey. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. As a beginner for now, let's see HTML as a set of instructions that we give to the computer. HTML is the building block of the web. So it defines the meaning and structure of the web content. Just like a building, CSS actually beautifies the web page. So CSS is like the colors in the building, the things that makes the house beautiful. And then JavaScript is like the lights or the automations in the house. So JavaScript add interactivity. So every web page you will see today is actually made of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In this course, we are going to be looking into HTML and CSS. For example, when you go to google.com, just come to these three dots, click on this, and if you move down, you are going to see more tools. Down this, you are going to see what is called the developer tools. Don't worry about this for now. I just want to show you that HTML actually is part of every website you see out there today. So if you click on the developer tools, you see, you come to this element and you are going to see HTML. You're also going to see CSS. Now let's go to amazon.com and let us do the same thing. So these three dots, and then you go to more tools, you come to developer tools, and also you are going to see HTML, and you are going to also see CSS. Let's also go to youtube.com and let's do the same thing. So more tools and developer tools, and also you are going to see HTML. So HTML is actually the foundation. It's like the building block, is the structure. It defines the contents of the web page. So for now, let's just simply see it as a set of instructions we actually give to our computer. But bear in mind that every website out there actually contains HTML. You know what? The best way to learn HTML is to start coding. So let's go straight and start seeing HTML in action. Now I am currently on my desktop. So what we are going to do now is to simply create a folder. And you create a folder by right-clicking on anywhere on your desktop or any path you actually want to create this project. So here, I'm going to click on New Folder, and I'm simply going to name it HTML CSS Course. So now we have this folder. Now let's go to the Visual Studio Code that we downloaded previously. Remember, this is the code editor. So here we have an option once you open Visual Studio Code, you're going to see this welcome page, and there is an option here which is this open. You can either click on this. So when you click on this, you are going to see this prompt, and here we are going to search for the folder we created. So I created mine in my desktop, so I'm going to click on desktop, and I called it HTML CSS course. So you can open this, and now we have the folder we created. So this is now our new project folder. You can also, let me show you the second way of actually opening this folder. We have several ways which you can actually open this folder. So let's go back to that VS Code, and here you can also go to the top, and here you will find file. So when you click on file, you are going to see open, and you are also going to see open folder. So you can use any of these. If you click on the open folder, also just search for the folder you created. So now we go to desktop, and this is the HTML CSS course. When you click on open, you also open this same folder. Another option, if you're on Windows, you can also right click on this, and here you are going to see an option to open with your code editor. If you're on Mac, you can simply open your VS Code, and then you can drag and drop this folder. So we have several ways of which we can open this folder, but the major goal as a beginner is actually to know how to open the folder. Any of those methods works. So now let us create a file. So this is a folder. We now want to create a file, and I am going to call this index.html. It must be .html. Remember, a normal PDF document, it ends with .pdf extension. So for the browser to actually understand that this is HTML code, it has to end with this .html extension. So this simply tells the browser that this is HTML code. So in here, to write our very first line of code, all you need to do is to write less than. So you type less than symbol on your keyboard, and here just put H1, and then you press greater than. After this greater than, just type my first website. Now we need to close this. Don't worry about the name of this. I just want us to create our first website. So to close this, you just have to enter the same thing you entered here. So the same thing we typed there, we are going to type it here. The only difference is we are going to add a forward slash. So here you type less than, then you type forward slash, and then you add your H1. So that means you opened this, and then you are closing it. Let's just save this file for now. You save this file by pressing Command S if you're on Mac, and Control S if you're on Windows. Once you save this file, just minimize this page, and now let's locate the folder we created. So I created my own folder on my desktop, which is this HTML CSS course. Open your folder, then you are going to find this index.html. So the next thing we are going to do is to open this particular file. And to open this file, you just have to right click on this, and you will see this option to open with our Google Chrome. So you can open this file with any web browser. So you can now open with, you click on this Google Chrome, and you see this is the text we entered, and this is a website actually. Congratulations, you just built your first website. I am super proud of you, and you should be proud of yourself. Let's go back to this file and examine what we just did. what exactly is this thing we created here? And why do we have to write it like this? So here we have what we call the opening tag. So the opening tag contains the name of the element wrapped in less than and greater than symbol. So in mathematics, we call this symbol less than and this the greater than symbol. And this is what we call the closing tag. The closing tag is very similar to the opening tag. The only difference is just this /. This opening tag states that our element actually begins from this place. And the closing tag, as the name implies, means that the element actually ends here. From here to here, we have what we call the contents. And everything from the opening tag to the closing tag is what we call an HTML element. The next question is, why do we have to write this way? This actually simply means that we are following the HTML syntax rule. It's just like in English language, we have what we call the rules of grammar. So just see this as rules of grammar. Now let's remove this H1. Let's remove the tags and see what happens when we save this file and refresh this page. You see, this means that we are not following the HTML syntax rule. And that is the main reason why we have to follow this rule by writing it this way. Now let's save this file again and refresh this page. So we have this back. Now let us look at the name of this particular HTML element we have here. So this actually is what we call the heading element. So this is the first heading element. In HTML, we have 6 heading elements. So we have H1, we have H2 to H6. There is nothing like H7. We only have H1 to H6. Now let's see this in action. Now let's add our H2. Remember, you write the less than symbol and simply H2, you close it, and here let's add the same content. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste this. Now close your H2 and let's do the same thing for H3. So less than, you write your H3, then you put your contents. Let's do the same thing for H4, you put this. Let's do the same thing for H5, less than, you write your H5, and in here you put your content. And now let's do the same thing for the last heading element, which is the H6. And let's put this. Now let's save this file and refresh our page. When you refresh the page, you have this. And you see, this means that the H1 element and the H2, actually there is an hierarchy. So you see that the H1 is actually bigger than the H2, followed by the H3. So these are the heading elements we have in HTML. Before we actually leave this section, let me ask a question. What happens if I need more space between my H1 and my H2? Maybe I want to move this a little bit down. As a beginner to programming, you might actually think that we can do this by simply pushing this down. If you push this down and save this, when you refresh this page, nothing is going to happen. So basically in HTML, the white space is ignored. Another thing to note is I can also use capital letter. So instead of writing the small letter, I can also do something like this. When you save this and you refresh your page, you are also going to have the same result. So an HTML element is actually case insensitive, but it is a good practice to actually use the small letter. And that is why in most HTML documents you see today, you are going to be seeing all the tags written in small letter. This is just to pass a short message. I also left a link below. When you click that link, it's going to take you to a GitHub page. For now, as a beginner, I don't want to disturb you on this. Later, we are going to see how you can actually create your GitHub account if you don't have one. And you are going to see how you are going to push your own work to GitHub, and also how you can deploy your own website and share the link to all your friends around the world, and also to potential employers. Like when you are applying for job, you are going to be using this, your portfolio. And so everyone around the world is going to have access to your portfolio website and also your GitHub account. So now all you need to do is to click that link. So when you click that link, you will see an instruction on how to have access to the whole folder. Also, we see an instruction on how to either download the folder or either clone the repo, anyone, but you are going to see a clear instruction on how to do that. So when you get that, you are going to have something like this. So you are going to see a folder containing the exercises, and then you are going to see the exercise solution. So to each exercise, you are going to see something like this showing you maybe the final results. And also there is another folder that contains the code to the first website we are going to build. But the major thing I want you to access for now is actually the exercises and also the solution. Good luck and have fun. So from the last session, we have this. So now let's actually remove all these white spaces. And now the next HTML element we are going to be looking at is what we call the paragraph element. And simply we write the less than, we put the P, and then we write the greater than symbol. Now let's close this tag by writing less than, and then you put your slash and P. So here let's put our content, and here let's say I am a paragraph. And now let's save this file. Let's refresh our page. When we refresh our page, we have this. So this is simply a paragraph. Now let's add another paragraph. So here let's also write our tags, and we can actually copy content from somewhere. So here let's go to Google and let's search for lorem sim. So here lorem ipsum, and you can open this lipsum.com. You can actually have access to some dummy text. So here we can just copy this, and now let's go back to our page. So in here, let's put this content, and you can save this file. When you save this file, and let's go back to our index, and when you refresh this, you are going to have this. I have a question. Let's try something, guys. Let's remove all these tags and see how our website is going to look like. So I'm going to remove all these tags. So now let's save this file. When you save this and refresh this page, you see this is exactly what we are going to have. And actually, this does not make sense. If you go out and maybe buy a newspaper and everything is just like this, there is no title, there is nothing, it's going to be very hard to read. For instance, let's say in English language, when you write a letter or maybe a comprehension, you always have the title, you always have different section of your comprehension. So the same way here, you see the work of HTML. So for this to be meaningful, we have to follow the HTML syntax rule. So let's put that back. And now when we save this, let's refresh our page, and you see this actually makes sense. Anybody visiting our website will be able to know that this is like the most important thing here. This is the main title. And this is another subtitle. And this looks like a paragraph. You see, this is very meaningful and also easy to understand. In the exercise file, you will also see an exercise on the paragraph element. Please practice. Practice makes perfect. And actually, that is what will help you to become a good developer. The next thing we are going to look at is what we call void element. Just as the name implies, void. So void elements are simply elements that has no content. Remember when we analyzed this H1, we said that this is the opening tag, this is the closing tag, and this is the content. So there are some elements that does not have content. There are many void elements in HTML. Let's just look at these two simple ones we need for now. And the first one is what we call the horizontal rule. So here, the horizontal rule, you simply write the less than, and here you put the HR, you enter space, and then you put the / and the greater than symbol. When you save this, and now you refresh your page, you are going to see this rule. This is what we call the horizontal rule. This element has no content, but yet we could see something on the page. So this is what we call the void element, element that contains no content. Now, if you look at this paragraph, actually we have this, like there are two things, the opening, the closing, and then there is a content. There is another thing to note. If you look at the closing tag and this, they have something like you might be a little bit confused. This / is actually before the P. And there is no space. If you put space here, this does not make any meaning. So here there is a space and it is just before this. And even when you remove this and you save this horizontal rule will still work. So when you refresh this page, you see, you still have your horizontal rule. So here in most documents, you are always going to see the void element written like this. We also have what we call the break element. So a break element actually helps us. For instance, let's go to the page. Now, if I want this lorem here to actually start from the next line, let's go to the document and try this. So let's create something like this and save this. We've seen this before, that actually HTML does not count the white space. So this will not work. In order to move this down, we need to add the break. So here, let's simply add less than, and then we are going to add the BR, and we put this, and we write the greater than symbol. When you save this, and now once we refresh this page, this actually should be pushed to the next line. So you see, this is pushed to the next line. So after the H1 here, you can actually decide to put an horizontal rule. So when we save this, and now when we refresh this, we have another horizontal rule. So these are examples of what we call void elements. So wherever you hear void elements in HTML, they are simply elements that has no content. Before we continue learning more HTML elements and building professional websites, we actually need to understand the HTML document structure. When you look at every letter in English language, normally we have this particular section that is going to contain the address, we add the date, we also have the salutation. And so we have this particular structure we normally follow. For example, we have a section for the introduction. We now have what we call the body of the letter. Now we also have what we call closing remarks. And then we now add our signature. The same way, HTML also has its own document structure. And that is exactly what we are going to be looking at now. So initially we add something like this. So for now, let us actually remove this. So here we just write the less than, exclamation mark, and we are going to write the doc type. And in here we put HTML. And this basically tells the browser that this document uses HTML. And the next thing we need to put is the HTML. The next thing we need to add is the HTML. And here we close this. In here, we are going to have what we call the head, and also we close this. And after the head, we have what we call the body. And here now we close this. So the HTML element wraps everything we are going to have in our document. So for now, let's simply add a title. And in this title, let's write my first website. When you save this, you are not going to see this on this page. So when you refresh this, you see nothing on this page. But if you look at this tab, look at this section, you actually see my first website. So the head actually contains some metadata that you don't want to display on your web page. So inside this body, let's add H1. And here, let's just simply say hello. When you save this now and refresh this page, you should see hello. So the body always contains everything we want to see on our page. So every HTML document must actually follow this structure. So you must have the head and also the body. Later, we are going to be seeing many other things, because in here, we can also specify the language. So here we can specify the language we want to use. And for example, we can choose EN/US. And here we are simply saying that this document uses English language, specifically the US English. This thing we wrote here is actually what we call an attribute in HTML. For now, we are not going to discuss this because we are going to see this in the next session when we actually start the main project of this particular session. So for now, I just want you to understand that every website you see out there contains HTML documents, and the HTML document always follow this structure. So there is always the head, and there is always the body, and you have the HTML itself wrapping all the contents. Now, for instance, if you go to youtube.com, so you click on these three dots and you move down to more tools and developer tools, just like we did at the beginning of this course, you are going to see HTML. And after this HTML, you see the doc type, and you see this HTML, and here you see the head, and the next thing you are going to see is actually the body. So you see every HTML document must follow this structure. So every website you see actually contains this simple structure we wrote here. So before we continue, I am actually going to stop now. There is a link to the MDN. So I added a link to the MDN page. It's the Mozilla Developer Tool. That is a very important link. And I really want you to actually go through that page and just go through what we've done. Remember, we started from the heading elements. We looked at the paragraph. We looked at the void element. And now we actually learned the most important thing that every HTML document must follow. So I want you to just pause a little bit and go through this documentation. Remember, as a software engineer, it is very important to understand how to read the documentation.